Picture the thunder of artillery in the distance, the crunch of boots on frozen ground, and a young infantryman gripping a rifle that feels heavier than fear itself. In his hands is not just a weapon, but a promise that when the moment comes, he won't be left helpless, cycling a bolt while the enemy advances. That rifle is the M1 Garand, and its story is inseparable from the story of World War II and the soldiers who fought it. Before the M1 Garand entered service, most of the world's armies relied on bolt-action rifles. These weapons were accurate and powerful, but they forced soldiers into a deadly rhythm: fire, work the bolt, reacquire the target, fire again. In the chaos of combat, those extra seconds mattered. The U.S. Army recognized this problem early and began searching for a semi-automatic rifle that could give its infantry a decisive edge. The man who would answer that call was John Cantius Garand, a Canadian-born engineer working at the Springfield Armory. Garand's task was anything but simple. The rifle had to be rugged, reliable in mud, sand, snow, and rain, and powerful enough to fire the .3006 Springfield cartridge, a round already proven in earlier conflicts. Years of prototypes, failures, redesigns, and testing followed. By the mid-1930s, Garand's design finally met the Army's demanding standards. In 1936, the United States officially adopted the U.S. rifle, caliber .30, M1, making it the first standard-issue semi-automatic rifle adopted by any major military power. That decision alone set the United States apart. When American soldiers entered World War II, they carried a rifle that could fire 8 rounds as fast as the trigger could be pulled, without manual cycling between shots. The M1 Garand used an internal magazine fed by an 8-round en-bloc clip, which was inserted into the top of the rifle. Once all 8 rounds were fired, the empty clip was automatically ejected with a distinctive metallic ping, instantly signaling that the rifle was empty and ready for a fresh clip. Much has been made of that famous ping. Stories persist that enemy soldiers used the sound to know when an American rifleman needed to reload. In reality, the chaos of battle, combined with gunfire, explosions, and stress, made such moments far less clear than legend suggests. For most soldiers, the sound was simply part of the rifle's personality, an audible punctuation mark that said, "Reload and keep fighting." The Garand's advantages were undeniable. Compared to bolt-action rifles like the German Kar 98K or the Japanese Arisaka, the M1 offered a significantly higher rate of fire. An experienced rifleman could deliver accurate, rapid shots without breaking sight picture or losing momentum. This gave American infantry units greater suppressive fire capability and flexibility in both offense and defense. It wasn't that the Garand made soldiers invincible, but it gave them a powerful edge when seconds and confidence mattered most. From the beaches of Normandy to the forests of the Ardennes, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of the Pacific, the M1 Garand proved itself in every environment imaginable. It functioned in freezing cold, blistering heat, and driving rain. Soldiers learned to trust it as they trusted the men beside them. Many veterans later said that the rifle felt almost alive, a constant companion that shared every hardship of the campaign. General George S. Patton famously called the M1 Garand the greatest battle implement ever devised. While Patton was known for dramatic statements, in this case, many historians agree with him. The Garand represented a perfect balance of power, reliability, and practicality for the era. Its .3006 cartridge delivered serious stopping power and effective range, while the rifle's gas-operated system absorbed recoil well enough to allow quick follow-up shots. Yet the M1 Garand was not without its quirks. The rifle was heavy, especially compared to later designs. Fully loaded, it weighed over 9 pounds, which added to the burden of soldiers already carrying packs, ammunition, and other gear. Reloading also required the entire clip to be ejected once empty. Topping off the magazine mid-clip was not possible in normal use. And then there was Garand thumb, the painful injury that could occur if a soldier's thumb got caught by the bolt slamming forward during loading. Almost every Garand user learned that lesson at least once. Despite these minor drawbacks, the rifle's strengths far outweighed its limitations. The Garand helped define how American infantry fought. Squads could maneuver more aggressively, laying down sustained fire while advancing or holding defensive positions. In many engagements, American units found themselves able to fire faster and more continuously than their opponents, changing the tempo of battle in subtle but important ways. The M1 Garand did not disappear when World War II ended. It continued to serve during the Korean War, where it again demonstrated its reliability in extreme cold and mountainous terrain. Soldiers in Korea faced brutal winters, and the Garand's proven design once more earned their trust. Even as newer rifles began to appear, the M1 remained a frontline weapon well into the 1950s. Eventually, the Garand was replaced by the M14, which retained many of the same design principles but featured a detachable magazine and selective fire capability. Still, the DNA of the M1 lived on. Its influence can be seen in later American rifles and in the broader philosophy of infantry firepower that emphasized semi-automatic and automatic capabilities as standard. Beyond its military service, the M1 Garand became a cultural icon. After the war, many rifles were sold or distributed to civilians through government programs, allowing generations of shooters to experience a piece of history firsthand. Collectors prize original wartime examples, while competitive shooters continue to use Garands in matches that celebrate traditional marksmanship. The rifle bridges the gap between battlefield history and civilian shooting culture like few firearms ever have. For many veterans, the Garand was more than steel and wood. It was a symbol of survival, sacrifice, and shared experience. Letters, memoirs, and interviews are filled with references to "my Garand," spoken with the familiarity reserved for old friends. Soldiers cleaned it, cursed it, depended on it, and in many cases, credited it with saving their lives. Today, when people think of World War II, images of the M1 Garand often come to mind alongside helmets, uniforms, and black and white photographs of young men heading overseas. It represents a turning point in infantry warfare, a moment when technology shifted the balance toward speed and sustained fire. It also represents the industrial and engineering strength that the United States brought to the conflict. The enduring fascination with the M1 Garand is not just about nostalgia. It's about understanding how innovation shapes history. A single design decision, adopting a semi-automatic rifle for every infantryman, had ripple effects across tactics, morale, and battlefield outcomes. The Garand didn't win the war by itself, but it empowered the soldiers who did the fighting. Even decades later, the sound of that distinctive ping echoes through shooting ranges, historical reenactments, and documentaries, instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with military history. It is the sound of a rifle that changed expectations, set new standards, and earned its place in legend. The M1 Garand stands as a reminder that behind every iconic weapon are countless hours of engineering, testing, and the lived experiences of those who carried it into harm's way. It is a story of innovation meeting necessity, and of a rifle that became inseparable from the generation that used it. When we talk about the M1 Garand, we're not just talking about a firearm, we're talking about a chapter of history forged in steel, wood, and the resolve of those who held the line.